Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Clark, and I'm owner-operator of Healthyway Consulting. I'm going to be talking to you today about how to automate tasks with Office 365. Automation is when you take a series of tasks you do manually and turn it into a process that runs pretty much by itself with very limited user interaction. The goal of this project is to help you understand how to integrate multiple Office 365 tools to automate a task. And I'll be showing you one example of how I use it to help interact with my clients to ensure that as issues come up, I'm able to address them in a timely fashion. And to do this, I'm going to walk through 3 different Office 365 tools that are available to you for free for any business license of Office 365. And that's Microsoft Forms, SharePoint Lists, and Power Automate. Before doing anything else, I like to plan out what I'm doing because these tools are great to automate something, but you have to make sure you understand the steps you need to take in order to make sure that you're doing it as effectively and efficiently as possible. They're hard to change once you set up, so it's important you plan ahead to make sure you know how it's going to be set up before you start doing so. So the case study I'm going to be working through today is to develop an automation process that will allow you to accept technical service requests from a client and make note of when it has been completed. The first thing I'm going to be doing is creating a form in Microsoft Forms that will allow clients to submit information about a technical service request. So the form, like Google Forms, is very straightforward software. It has very limited functionality, but it does allow you to collect basic information from a client. And in this case, I'm going to be using fields with the following question types. I'm going to have name, which is going to be a text field, email, again, a text field, the project name, which I'm going to do multiple choice based on the projects I'm working on, a description of what the technical issue is, which is going to be a long text or paragraph data type. So once I have those understood, I can go into my Microsoft Forms and develop a new form. So you can see this is my own personal, my company's Microsoft 365 account. So I'm going to go and create a new form. And the forms are pretty straightforward to develop. It doesn't take very much time, mostly because it's a fairly simple software. It doesn't have a whole lot of functionality. So the first thing I'm going to do is upload my logo so it's branded with my company. I'm then going to add a title to this, which is just going to be a technical service request. And then a bit of a description. Okay. Of course, you're going to fix all the typos in your thing and you're good to go. Okay. So now I have the basic form created. I'm now going to add those fields I said I needed to have. The first is a text field, which is going to be name, where the user is going to put their first and last name in there. You can separate it out and just say first name. Create a new field, last name. Oops. And you can see it's going to give you a whole bunch of optional or selected recommended ideas. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to print it out. Last name. I'm going to have an email. And the one thing you can do is make sure everything's required that you want to be required, because you want to make sure that you get this information. Otherwise, you won't be able to communicate with your client. Okay. And now I'm going to add project name. And I will have an option command or a function so that we can People can enter their own response in case I haven't updated this or there's something else I've helped them with that I haven't put on the list. So I'm going to do ActivePass automation. I'm going to do GIS automation. I'm going to add HR automation and survey support. Okay. Again, this can be anything you want it to be. It's just to customize it to get the information from the user. Okay. And now the final thing is I want to create a description of the technical issue description. I'm going to turn this into a long answer, and I'm going to add a subtitle so I can write some instructions below. And I'm going to say describe the problem in as much detail as you can. Provide screenshots. Okay, sorry, I'm not going to do that right now. I can add a new one, and you can upload files. So for instance, you have to identify the location you want to save it, which it defaults to SharePoint. So I'm going to select this, and actually you can add something like submit screenshots showing any issue you are having. I'm going to make this optional, and I'm going to turn off the subtitle because I don't need it for this one. And I'm just going to put 10 pictures in there. Okay. You can specify what file type. So if I just want images, I can turn off everything else. But images and video actually might make sense so that you're able to upload or accept video submissions as well. Okay. So now I have, and again, I never added this into my plan, but it's something you can add if you choose to. So I have this now created. We have a form. Now it's time to collect responses. And you can see here that it's going to have a long one. You can also set up who can respond. Only people in your organization. Anyone can respond, and specific people. It depends on the settings of your organization. If you don't have anyone can respond, like I don't have here, that you can make that available through the administration dashboard, which I'm not going to show you right now. I've never done that before. But you will want to make that available to everyone. So once that's done, I'm going to hit copy, and I'm going to copy the URL. Okay. And I always like to just make notes of this. So I have notes over on my other screen that I'm not showing you. So I'm just going to put that URL of the form there, just so I have access to it so I can find it later on. Okay. So now we're happy with this. So the next step, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, is to create a SharePoint list. Now, a SharePoint list is something that will allow you to store a whole bunch of items with different fields available for you. And we can do that through SharePoint lists in SharePoint. Okay. From a data type and field standpoint, we want name, email, project name, description, date submitted, date completed, and any notes you may have regarding that project. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my SharePoint. So now you have the form here, which you can see it looks pretty good. We have our site contents here, from our SharePoint. So I'm going to add a new list under site contents. I'm going to create list. And you can create a list from Excel. You can use one of these defaults, or you can create a blank one. And I'm going to do that in this case. So I'm going to call it Healthy Way Consulting Technical Support List. Okay. A list storing all technical support issues submitted by clients of Healthy Way Consulting. Okay, so I'm going to show inside navigation, which just means you're going to see it in here. So I'm going to hit create. It's going to take a minute. And here you can see it's got added, and we have this blank list. Now, a few things about lists to be aware of. The first thing is this title field is a mandatory field on everything, and it has to be a unique value. You can change the name of it, but it has to be a text data type. So in this case, I'm going to actually leave this blank and deal with this one later. Okay. I'm going to then go to multiple lines of, or add column, and this is where I'm going to start again going through the list of things I've created. So name, email, project name, description, date submitted, date completed, notes. So I'm going to put all of that information into as new fields. So I'm going to start with name, and remember I did first name and last name. So I'm going to do first name of submitter, of client who submitted the issue. Okay, you want to give a bit of a description there so it's easier to do. You're going to see that gets added. Now I'm going to add last name, I'm going to add email, you can see as I add them, they get added to the database. Okay. Okay, so now I forget which the next one is, description. So I'm going to use multiple lines of code this time, or of text this time. So it's going to say email, first name, last name, email, description of technical issue submitted. And the last three are date submitted, date completed, and notes. Okay, so this one's going to be a date submitted. So date technical issue was submitted. I don't want to include time. You can include friendly format. It really doesn't matter. All friendly format does is change it into a like it would say December 21st, 2022 or whatnot, instead of just using numbers. You can say if you want to require information as well. That's one thing I haven't done yet. I don't like to click the require information because then it requires you every time you're doing updates to your list, it's going to require you to actually put information in, which can get tedious after a while. Okay, so date submitted. I'm going to add a new one called date completed. Date Healthy Way Consulting has completed addressing the technical issues submitted. Okay. Yes. Save. Okay, and then we have a notes section at the very end. So I'm just waiting for this to disappear. I'm adding a new one. It's multiple lines of text, and it would just be notes. Notes provided by Healthy Way Consulting regarding the technical issue submitted. Okay, I'm going to hit save. And now we have our list created with data types associated with them. Okay, you can change some of the information about the columns under edit. So you can change some information about it, but not extensively. Okay. Oh, the one thing I did miss was the project name. So you can see I forgot that information. So I'm actually going to go back in here. I'm going to go single line of text and project name and space there, the name of the project for which an issue is submitted about it. Again, this is why it's good to plan out, because sometimes you miss things. So I would go back in theory, I would go back to the automation page for SharePoint, and I'd add that field in my list so that I have everything organized and easy to follow. Okay. So now that the list is created, I want to create a flow, and the flow will be triggered based on form submissions. It's going to add a technical service issue to the SharePoint list we just created. We're going to send an email to the technician with options to indicate it has been completed, and that's going to update the list with completed date once it's finished. Okay. So to do that, I'm now going to go under Manage Your Flows. And I'm going to create a flow right here. And I'm going to create an automated cloud flow. Okay. So, and you're going to base it. So we're going to add a name. Manage technical issues, service submissions, something like that. And I always like to put my organization name at the front, just so if I share it with anyone, they can find what it is. When a new response is submitted, so I'm going to hit that and hit create. Now it's going to bring up the flow in the default materials. And one thing that's going to happen is when you add that form, it's going to be looking for the connection to the form. It's automatically going to default to your account unless you add new connections. And you can always add new connections and new usernames and passwords. So you can see some of my other accounts that I have access to are here. So it allows you to manipulate them and add new information. But I'm going to stick with my original ones. And I'm going to go in here and pick the form, which is the technical service request with Healthyway Consulting. Okay. So it does give me an error. So I'm just going to sign in again just to make sure this is working. There we go. And for some reason it comes in twice. Again, that's not a big deal. It's just annoying. So now that you have that created, we need to get the information. We need to get the response details. So this is just triggering when the response is submitted. But now we want to get details from the response. So again, I'm going to select that same response. And I'm going to get the ID from that original one. So when you click on, if your screen's big enough and you click on this, you're going to see the response ID come up. If your screen is smaller and you click on this, you're going to just see it come up here, down in the bottom. So I'm going to select response ID, those match. And what's going to happen is when someone submits something, it's going to get all the entries from this form and save it into Power Automate. Okay, and bring it up into Power Automate. So again, I'm going to go back to my tasks. So once I have that, I'm going to add a technical service issue to the SharePoint list. So going back to here, I'm going to create a new step. And this time I want SharePoint list. And I want to create an item. Creating an item is all the rows in your list. So I'm going to create an item in the Healthyway Consulting site address with the list name Technical Support List. And you're going to see once you do that, it's going to open up all the fields that you've added. Okay. One thing to be aware of, if you change the items, or if you change your list at all, you will have to recreate this process by removing it, by deleting it, and adding it again. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to plan ahead, so you have everything at your fingertips. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to put in the title, which is going to be some sort of information about the individual. I'm actually going to use the response ID as the title because that's a unique value attached to the form, and it will allow me to connect the two together if I need to in the future. So for instance, to access the pictures. I'm then going to simply, on all these other ones, click on first name. Oh, there we go. We got first name. Click on last name. And I'm connecting everything to the field in the list that you want to connect everything to. Okay. description. Now, date submission is going to be based on this timestamp. So we can just click on this and it may work, but you also may want to customize the data type. So I'm going to actually change this to format date type or date time. Okay. So this is actually bringing it into an expression, which allows you to basically run a calculation on your results. So I'm going to go back here and click submission time, which is going to put in the field information I need. Now the expression, you have to put in quotes, is going to be YYYY, so year first, 4-digit year, dash, or you can use a slash, MM, so capital M for minutes, or for month, in DD for day. So lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. Capital M because it differentiates between month and minute. Now I hit OK and it should pop in here. And if you want to change that at all, you just double click on it and it will come back up under expression. Okay. Date completed, we're going to leave blank, and notes, we're going to leave blank. So I'm going to save this. And at this point, I'll generally be testing it. So I'm actually going to go manual. I want to manually test this. So I'm going to test, and then you're going to get a screen that's basically saying you're waiting for something to happen. See, it's thinking right now. It's waiting for something to happen. So I'm actually going to go back to my form, and I'm going to collect responses. So I'm going to take the shortened URL that I saved before, copy it, and I'm going to paste it into my browser. And this is going to allow me to actually fill this out and test it. So I'm going to enter my name, my email address, the project I'm talking about, and the technical issue. And it doesn't matter what you have. You just want something simple to test it out. I'm going to submit this. Thanks. This works great. And I'm going to go back to Power Automate. Now you're going to see as soon as you run that, it's going to recognize that something was submitted and it's going to test it out. So you can see all these check marks here mean that everything's working properly. So you can see the outputs of this by, for instance, clicking on the click to download, and you can see the item in the response ID that you're pulling out, which is right here. Response ID is 1. Okay. You can also see under Get Response Details, and it's Response ID 1, what the information that was submitted. There's all the information that was submitted. And under Create Item, you can see what I've created, and that's all the items going in there. Okay. Now that that's created, I'm going to go back to my list, and you should see all the information from that list there. So this is perfect. This worked great. So I'm actually going to delete the list item for now, because I need to finalize the Power Automate still. So now that I've created the item, the next thing we need to do is send an email to the technician with options to indicate it has been completed. Okay, so I'm going back to Power Automate, and I'm going to go New Step, and I'm going to use Outlook. And there's a few different ways you can do this. So you can, sorry, let me just see here. So there's lots of options here of what you can do. The one we want to do specifically in this case, so for instance, you might want to actually put it into Outlook tasks, which allows an individual to actually receive a task assigned to them. Okay, but I'm going to use, for this example, send email with options. Okay, you're going to specify first who it's going to. So this is going to be your technical, or your technician. And my email already comes up there. Okay, you're going to have a subject matter, the subject. So I'm going to say new technical service issue, submitted. And I'm going to add the ID number in that list so that we know which item is actually referring to. Okay. Now these choices can be any wording you want, but any choice needs to be submitted through a by a check or by separated by commas. In this case, we only need one actual user option. Is task completed? Okay. There's lots of other information you can put here. The most important is the body of the email, because this is where you want to state all the information. So, dear Andrew, please complete the following service. Please address the following service issue submitted by first name, last name. Okay. Here are the details of the project of the service issue, technical service issue. Okay. So this is where I'm going to add the project. And this can be an HTML. So you can set it up to actually all be pretty. And you can use HTML message, yes or no. For this case, it really doesn't matter because it's just going to myself. So I don't care if the formatting is a little off. So I'm just going to simplify this. Project name and description. I'm going to put those two things in there so that it gets added to my project. Okay. Thanks. And then I don't actually even have to sign it or even put Dear Andrew, because again, this is just sending me an email with the service information. Okay. So we have that. The next thing I'm going to do is actually change the importance to high because I want to make sure it gets flagged. Okay. And I just want to make sure I have this set up properly. Cancel. I also want to make sure I not only send it to myself, but I want to send it to the person that emailed me because they are also receiving. So get response details, email, because they are also submitting a this issue. Okay, so I want them to see that I've received it. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and under the three dots here, you can configure which email it's sending it from. Okay, I'm just going to use my default email address. You might have a certain email address where all the service requests go to, or a technician, and you would send it from the owner maybe, or from that service request out to the technician itself, but it really just depends on how you want to organize it. So again, I'm going to hit the test button, and this time there's actually one in memory. So I'm going to test with the recently used trigger. So that means I don't have to fill out the form again. You hit test, and you should see it's going to run. And if I open up my email, you're going to see project description, or project is that, description is that. So the formatting is not great. So I'm actually going to go back and edit this. And I'm going to just add a break here. I think this will work. Maybe not. Maybe it's better to actually add a full carriage break. But we can test it out. Again, you don't like it, it allows you to retest, right? We're going to test it again and see what happens here. Okay, got sent to my phone, so I'm just waiting for it to come up. Yep, there we go. So we have the project and the description. The BR doesn't work, but actually putting an extra break between the two does separate them. Okay, you'll notice if you go back to the main screen these flows are still running. And that's because it's waiting for a response from the email saying the task has been completed. So I'm just going to cancel those so we don't have them continually running in the background. But that will continue to say unknown until you're done. Okay. Okay, so I'm going back to edit this, and I'm going to add in the response. What happens when someone hits task completed? Because right now it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to add one last step and add this as a condition. And what a condition is it allows you to say, if this gets selected, so selected option is equal to task completed, and it has to be exactly the same text wording as this. Okay. And then yes, if this is the case, then we're going to update an item. Okay, so I'm going to click update item, and I'm going to update this item in the list because we do have date completed here. So we're going to pick the one that has that list, and now we're going to use the ID value or the response. Sorry. We're using the ID value from the create item because when this gets created, an ID value gets selected. We're going to use the title, which is, again, we can use from the create item. And then we're going to update the date. And to do that, I'm going to format date time. In this time in brackets, I'm going to use UTC now. Okay, this is a function that will tell you what the exact date is right now. Okay, and then in quotes again, I'm going to put year, month, day. Again, I'm just going to make sure the formatting is the same. I used forward slashes before so that all the formatting is the same across all of them. We hit OK, and that's there. So I save this. And again, I'm going to test one last time just to make sure this whole process works. So automatically with recent trigger, I'm going to select the canceled one and run it. Now, again, this is going to pause, send email with options because I've gotten this new service request. It's issue number 4. And I'm going to select completed this time because I will have done the work and I'm ready for it to be done. Once that happens, you'll see this condition is true. So it's going to update the item to today's date. So if we go into our list and refresh this, you're going to see the date has been added for today. Okay. And now we're done. Okay. So as a refresher of where we were at, we created a form that allowed us to get information from a user. We created a SharePoint list to track our submission requests. And we've used Power Automate to connect these two together along with sending emails with options to allow us to update that list, to create the list and update the list automatically. So the only user entry is to fill out the initial form and to create the Power Automate and to actually hit the button task completed at the end of it. I hope this helps you get an idea of what's available and what's possible with Outlook 365 and automation. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about this process. I am available to do training through my consulting firm. If you have staff that want to learn more about Power Automate and receive some instruction, but I'm also capable of actually doing this contract work for you, where you can hire me to actually conduct this kind of analysis for you, set up your automation techniques, and really figure out how to best make your organization as effective as possible using these tools available to you. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to hearing from you and answering questions about automating processes in your organization. Have a great rest of your day.